What's up everyone, Matt here with Seattle Dashcams, and today we're going to be doing a full review of the brand new Omni 360 Dashcam from 70mai. I got my hands on one of these back in January, and I've been spending the last 2 months testing this camera in just about every way that I can think. I tested the parking mode and live monitoring, I tested the app, I got side-by-side comparison footage against one of the best 4K dash cameras on the market. I even sat in my car and gave this camera the same voice commands hundreds of times in a row just to see how well they work. And today, you're going to get to see all of that and more. This upgraded version of the Omni has some of the same great features that the previous camera did, like a voice-controlled 360-degree rotating front lens, live alerts and push notifications to your phone, but this new version also adds AI license plate detection, upgrades the front camera to a 4K resolution, and adds a 1080p rear camera. The camera can record at 30 frames per second with HDR enabled, and 60 frames per second if you disable the HDR. It features the latest Sony Starvis 2 image sensor, Wi-Fi 6, and takes up to a 512 gig SD card. Now this camera is going to go on sale in the US for $330, and you can also get it for 10% off if you buy it between now and April 10th. Now quick disclaimer here, 70mai did not pay me for this review, and I'm not making any sort of commissions off the discount code. I like 70mai's take on achieving a 360-degree field of view by using a single rotating front lens instead of a front camera that maybe has multiple lenses facing in different directions. It's got kind of this pill shape with the lens stuck on the front. I know this shape isn't going to be for everybody, and truthfully for me it was not love at first sight, but I will tell you that once I got it on my windshield and had it up there for about a week, I really didn't notice it anymore. I think the rotating lens is a really neat feature, and it's going to satisfy a need for a lot of customers out there. I think there are customers who are going to want to be able to direct the camera to look in a certain direction, especially a scenario maybe like an interaction with law enforcement in case they've been pulled over. Now they can direct the camera to look at the passenger side or the driver's side window and start recording both audio and video for that interaction. Now, of course, you won't get a true full-time 360-degree field of view for your camera, but I think the trade-off is that this solution is a lot more elegant than some of those solutions that use multiple lenses. Now, the most important feature for any digital video recorder is its image quality. And we're going to put this head-to-head with the Viofo A229 Pro on the windshield of my work vehicle. Now, you're going to see that this video focuses specifically on capturing license plates. The reason for this, I think that capturing license plate details is the most important for any dash cam. Now, like I mentioned in the intro of this video, this new version of the 70mai Omni features an AI license plate detection technology. As I understand it, how the camera works is the AI is able to identify the part of a car that bears the license plate, and it's able to selectively compress that part of the video clip less than the rest of the video clip. This lesser compression for this part of the clip specifically yields a better quality image of the license plate in the rendered video. Both these cameras were mounted next to each other on my windshield, and the 70mai was mounted with the lens about an inch lower than the lens on the Viofo A229 Pro, so you are going to see a bit of a difference in the field of view, but I do also want to caveat that the field of view difference is going to look bigger, and that's because of the way that the 70mai mounts your windshield compared to the Viofo A229 Pro. The Viofo A229 Pro is more of a flush-mounted camera where the lens sits very close to the glass, and because of the dangly kind of mounting nature of the Omni, it's going to sit about an inch, inch and a half back from the glass, and so it's going to make that field of view even bigger. Both cameras were set to record at their maximum bitrate. Both cameras were recording 4K at 30 frames per second. Both of them had HDR enabled, and both of them had their CPL filters applied. Now I'm going to shut up for a few minutes here while I show you this comparison footage, so sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you at the end. Now this camera can record at 60 frames per second if you disable the HDR, but if you've seen our video comparing 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second with HDR, you're going to know that we prefer 30 frames per second with HDR. You're going to see it makes a huge difference capturing license plate details at night when you have the HDR enabled. And if you're using the 60 frames per second without HDR, you really stand almost no chance of capturing license plate characters when you're using a 60 frames per second camera at night. Now this camera has two parking modes. You can use either the motion detection parking mode or the impact detection parking mode. You can also enable both. I think on paper the motion detection parking mode sounds really fun. The camera lens will actually lock on to somebody walking around your car, and it will follow them as they move around your vehicle. It will also illuminate this small red ring light to kind of let them know that they're being watched. I thought this was really fun, but overall in practice, I felt it was more gimmicky than it was practical. There were examples where it didn't work as well as it should. There were also some examples where even though I was standing in front of the camera and waving at it, it wouldn't recognize me at all. For me, the best parking mode was the bump detection parking mode. So the camera goes dormant where it's drawing just under 200 milliamps of power, and then it will only wake up if it detects an impact to your vehicle. Now it only takes about 3 seconds to wake up after the impact, and then it will record, and then it will go back dormant, and it will send you a push notification to your phone with a link to that video if you've got a UP05 hardwire kit. Live remote monitoring and push notifications to your phone are available with this camera, just like they were with the previous version of the 70mai Omni, as long as you get the UP05 hardwire kit and a 4G data SIM card from someone like T-Mobile. Overall, I really liked the live alerts and push notifications feature. The one thing that I didn't quite like about it though was that when I would get a push notification to view an incident that had happened in my car, when I would click on the notification, it would take me to a screen that should be showing me the live view of my camera, but it would actually tell me that the SIM card in my camera didn't have good enough cell service to show me the live view just yet. Then it would show me a pop-up which should have linked me to a video of the incident, and instead would then reroute me back to the live view again, which would now be working. This camera does have voice commands, and that's a feature that I typically disable on most other dash cams, but the 360-degree lens on this camera I felt like only works because of the voice commands. There's no way to manually rotate the camera lens without going into the app. So because those are so important for enabling this 360-degree feature of the Omni, I set out to test these in depth. Now, how I did that is I identified the commands that I thought were most important, and I gave those commands to the camera in a sequence of 4. I commanded the camera to do each one of those things 100 times for a total of 400 commands. Now, out of the 400 commands that I gave the camera, it only missed 6, which I think was an excellent error rate. I also think that error rate of 6 is slightly inflated because 5 of the 6 commands that it missed were to face left.
Capture left.
And facing left was the first command in any sequence that I gave the camera. So I think what may have been happening is that as I was resetting and starting a new sequence and giving it that first command to face left, I may not have been speaking at the right volume, and the camera may have missed it when I told it to face left. Whenever this happened, I would raise the volume of my voice for the next command in the sequence, and then there wouldn't be any misses for the rest of the sequence. There were also a handful of occasions where the camera would mishear me and take some action that I didn't want it to. Sometimes when I would say the word right, the camera would think that I was instructing it to face right, and it would make that adjustment. The biggest issue that I discovered with this camera during my testing was the app and camera connectivity. Now, this is an important one, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about that, but I had a lot of issues getting the camera and my phone connected properly using the smartphone app. This is interesting because this actually didn't manifest itself earlier in my testing and only became an issue in the last couple of weeks. And there's a lot of cases where I'm not able to properly connect my phone to the camera. In order to get everything connected, I have to reboot the camera, reboot my phone, maybe go into the app and try and connect a couple of times before I get a successful connection. And because the 70mai Omni doesn't allow you to change or adjust all of the settings for the camera directly on the camera itself and requires you to use the app for at least some of the settings, I think this is a big issue that needs to be addressed. Okay, so let's summarize what this camera does well, doesn't do well, and who I think it's for. I think the standout feature for this camera has to be its video quality. Its 4K 30 HDR front resolution does a great job of catching license plates both during the day and at night, and holds its own against a great competitor in the Viofo A229 Pro. I thought the live monitoring, live viewing, and push notifications also worked really well, and the notifications were sent to me in a timely manner every time the parking mode was triggered. Things I didn't like about this camera, first and foremost, was the connectivity issues that I had when connecting my phone to the camera. 70mai absolutely has to get this one taken care of. I also think the motion tracking parking mode needs a little bit of work before it becomes a little bit less gimmicky and more useful. So if you're somebody who's looking for a 360-degree field of view camera, but something a lot more discreet than what's previously been available on the market, I think this could be a good option for you. Now, I've done my best in this video to show you everything that I could think to test, but of course, there's certainly things that I could have missed. And if there's anything that you have questions about or anything that you want to see or hear more about, drop a comment in the section below. I'll make sure to respond, and we may even have a follow-up video to help with some of your questions. Like always, if you found this video helpful, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the SeattleDashcams.com website for the latest and greatest deals on our cameras and the latest camera offerings.